delegate we have is Ms. Fernandez, and you're speaking about the board's role. And I understand you have no PowerPoint this evening. Okay. One moment. Ready? Okay, whenever you're ready.
Thanks. Good evening. I'm Cristina Fernandez, a constituent and a mother of 2 kids at the Waterloo Region District School Board. I stand before you today to express my alarm about disconnection between the board and its stakeholders and its role. The WRDSB consultation policy claims to offer meaningful opportunities for public input and recognizes the importance of diversity and dialogue. I question whether this truly reflects the WRDSB today. I could highlight numerous instances where the proper consultation was lacking. For example, the board approved to cancel student resource officers without proper broad consultation. The board cancels and disregards special events that help create community without proper consultation, and refuse to communicate with stakeholders about particular topics being taught in the classrooms. The recent decision to encourage masks was also made without proper consultation. The strategic plan, student surveys, and one-sided surveys only represent a fraction of the WRDSB community and do not replace open forum and diverse dialogue. Transparency of interpretation is also critical in order for this to be appropriately used as a guide for decisions for our children. It is repeatedly and inaccurately stated that 24% of our students, and emphasize that 1 in 4 of our students identify as the 2S LGBTQ community.
Please, in the gallery, please, we're here to observe.
It isn't 24% of even our grades 7 to 12. It was 24% of the grades 7 to 12 students that filled out the survey. But how many students filled out that survey? Furthermore, several parents, students, and teachers have indicated that they know of false responses on these surveys. Are these being evaluated? Are they being accounted for when we look into these surveys for the guidance that we use for our children? The open letter and the discussions in the boardroom showed a disconnect with the majority of the board and their roles. Despite not being able to address all inaccuracies here, it is important to clarify a few and perhaps notify the board of a few unintended consequences that maybe could clear up some misunderstandings. For example, last week at our school's council meeting, we were discussing methods to open up communication to foster participation and community within our schools, which we had a plan for. But after this open letter, parents explained that the WRDSB community is too polarized to have an open forum. Were you aware of the negative impact such a letter could have on the WRDSB community as a whole? Parents are tired of the polarity and the politics. And how about the community in which the majority of the board claims to be protecting? Did you think about the negative impact that it may have to make such an accusation that, quote, many of these arguments are veiled attempts to target 2S LGBTQIA+ children and families? These are absolute strawman arguments. Let us be clear. I, nor none of the parents and staff that I know who are agreeing that the WRDSB has been neglecting to look into the concerns regarding appropriateness of the books that are accessible by our children. None of them are connected to any individual or group. The constituents continue to hear messages from the board that these concerns are from invalid conspiracy theories, yet the majority of the board and its staff are using inflammatory language such as anti-woke agenda, far right, veiled attempts to target, method to attack public education. Where is the integrity? The stakeholders have been very clear and sincere with the discontentment, and rather than looking into these matters, they're tossed aside and nullified. It was stated that, I quote, the only texts that are being highlighted in the text are that reflect the 2S LGBTQ identifying students. Firstly, again, this has nothing to do with any community other than our WRDSB community as a whole and everyone in it. Secondly, the book that the parent read from was not of LGBTQ subject matter at all. Thirdly, could the continuous review, evaluation, and weeding or CREW method of removing outdated material have something to do with the absence of books with sexualized content of only heterosexuals? Do these books even exist? And I'll
Ask you to leave if you speak out again. Okay, this is for observe. You are here to observe. Thank you.
And although there have been many examples of heterosexual acts brought forward, is it the parents' responsibility to be aware of every book in the school library? Why is the board ignoring the books that are brought to their attention while suggesting others that may be more concerning to them? Why is the board bringing up the Bible? Even the Bible has age-appropriate versions. They're children's Bibles. There's also stated that, quote, issues to SLGBTQ community are age-appropriate regardless of which age they are age-appropriate, end quote. Are we so out of touch? Surely there are parents that have values and opinions on age-appropriateness regardless of sexual orientation, no? At the last board meeting, it was mentioned that people have brought up concerns about age appropriateness and perhaps a more appropriate method. And I wonder what that looked like. Did it look like direct messages that went unanswered? Does it look like calm and reasonable delegations from longtime teachers who are ejected from the board meetings? Staff who are ostracized and labeled for posing questions? Candidates who are slandered as hateful and transphobic, amongst other things? What does a conversation look like before constituents start reading straight from the books at the board meetings? And urging the board to take care of itself and look at the criminal code. It's been over a year. Have you looked at these books? How can we as reasonable individuals see how disgusted at least one of our trustees was by a passage that was read out loud? And state, how dare he read this passage at a meeting that's being recorded, and yet nothing was done about the book. The only action taken was to again belittle the parent and to perhaps attempt to scare off anyone else for speaking this issue. I have a passage here between a biological man and a biological male and a biological female. It's from the same book. It was told to me by a parent, and it's incredibly disturbing. The act itself, but then the unimaginable ways in which the author describes the scene is nothing that I want anyone to have to visualize, especially my children. I was certain I was going to read it here today for you, after hearing how appalled adults are, to hear something that doesn't even come close to what exists in some of the books and many others, and yet does nothing about it. So we continue to stand. I sent the passage to all of you. You should have it in your inboxes. I won't read it here. You're welcome to take it out now or read it in your own time. I would appreciate to know your thoughts on it. As the board was not transparent or truthful with the communications, it's misleading the constituents by stating, quote, this book is not available in WRDSB elementary schools, unquote. This book is available currently to all students at the WRDSB. There is no safety control on this book and many others. I accessed it with 2 clicks from my 6-year-old's account. This statement referring to the accessibility of this book also makes it seem as though if a book is intended for adolescents, then it, quote, is no way promoted to young children, end quote. Are you certain? Did you consult the educators and parents between the morning of the 17th to the afternoon of the 20th to ensure that this statement is truthful? I know of at least one classroom in the WRDSB who indeed promoted a book that was intended for adolescent students to students who are not yet in high school for their bonus reading. Have you thought about the severity of what is being brought to your attention? Have any of you looked at the books that these parents and staff and I have brought to your attention for over a year now? Have you asked any questions?
1 minute remaining.
It is not worth your time. Is it not worth your time to consult those who are coming forward to you? Is it not your duty? Thank you.
Trustees, any questions of clarification? Trustee Watson?
Yes, during your delegation, you talked about polarizing for open dialogue, the negative impact.
Mhm.
Can you just give details around that?
Yeah, so this specific example was, amongst people that I don't normally connect with other than in the school setting for school council. So I didn't really know their opinion one way or the other, but it was pretty fascinating to see how it impacted even just how we wanted to approach communication within our school, because we wanted to have more engagement within our school and more participation from parents within our school. And to have these parents say, "Did you see the open letter?" And there's oh wow, like the things they said about it was, they can see how polarizing things are. That that we were talking about an open forum like Facebook to have people be able to post comments of what's going on in the school and how to participate. But then, something like Valentine's Day will come up and you'll have polarized views of it. And there's no way that we as parents can kind of admin something like that. So with that polarization and even coming here today, I mean, we were told that there's 3 hateful speeches today. Like this has nothing to do with hate. This is just diverse opinions and concerns about the content that our children are seeing.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Radlin?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Ms. Fernandez, thank you for your presentation. Just in reference to your comments about books in libraries,
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if you're saying that it's the Waterloo Region District School Board that chooses those, because there's an Ontario Library Association that vets books for all schools in Ontario,
Mm-hmm.
and books in the library come off the approved list.
Mm-hmm.
So that is not, I'm wondering if you're aware of that. You also made a comment about, people saying hateful speech and polarization. And are you saying that the trustees at this table said that? Or the employees said that? I'm wondering what the relevance of what you hear from other people is to your presentation.
Okay. Right, Ms. Hernandez?
I guess, I mean, it's coming from all over, but I think that certainly some of the language that's being used within the board or the staff or the boards that's coming from the school board. I mean, when you take communications from the school board, you take it as professional and that it should be accurate information. But most of the information on this letter was very accusatory. There was nothing valid to it. It was just opinion based, and it came out as factual, and that sets a precedent. And I mean, people believe what's being said on these letters, or they don't, and it causes quite polarization within our community. I don't know if that answers the question.
Ms. Trustee Radlin?
Well, what I hear is you expressing opinion as fact, because there are other people
Point of
who.
order, it's just for clarification, not a debate back and forth.
So,
Trustee Radlin, your question?
yes, so my question is, in terms of saying that it was inflammatory and not factual,
Mhm.
what is your, help me understand what it is. Where, what.
Help you understand what was not factual?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, for instance, the specific quote saying that this is targeted to specific communities. This is not, I was hoping that I would be clear that there are many reasons why the information that's been brought forward in a book may come from one of the books that is, let's say, from the LGBTQ community. That's not because it's targeting that community. It's because of the content that's in that book. And there were even heterosexual ones that were brought forward, yet it's being stated that the only things being brought forward have to do because it's a target towards this population, and that is inaccurate. It's false. It is a lie.
Okay. I'm going to move on. Trustee Woodcock,
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair.
question of clarification?
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. I'm wondering, you mentioned that you were able to access a book using your 6-year-old's account.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if you took the opportunity, once that you had gained that access, to report that to the teacher, the principal, the superintendent, anyone on staff who could perhaps investigate that and then maybe remedy that? Did you take an opportunity to report that?
I'm under the impression there's no controls for these books. That's probably why there was a motion placed that needed to be reviewed, is it not?
I'm not debating.
Yeah,
so
no,
I'm just asking.
she's asking if you had made that report.
No, because we brought it to the board. We had brought it to the board, and the board said that there was no issues, that the kids
Okay.
cannot access
So
it.
any concerns through, can go through the communications process or a concerns process, which would be teacher, principal, superintendent, in that order. And if you weren't sure who to direct your concern, the trustees could direct it to the appropriate staff for you. So just
That's interesting. I didn't see that in the open letter.
that it is on our website.
Hmm.
Trustee Ramsey, you have a question of clarification?
Yes, that's Madam Chair. Through you to Ms. Fernandez, I appreciate you coming and having the courage to state your viewpoints. That said, my question, you mentioned in your delegation that you're part of interact with the parent council for your children's school. I'm not asking for you to name the school or anything like that, but how comfortable do you feel approaching your principal through the parent council or whatever to share concerns?
I'm not sure that's a question of clarification, Trustee Ramsey. I think we need to keep our questions according to what Trustee Ramsey, what they've said.
Correct. And the delegation did refer to interactions with other parents at parent council. And so that's the question then in terms of the chain of command that you talked about, or you referenced around principals and so forth. It opens it up as to the comfort level for parents to approach their principal. Are they that approachable? And I'm not asking for the name of the school or anything like that, any identifiers. I think it's a fair question.
Keep your response brief.
Sure. I think just from my character, I'm quite comfortable to do that. But I do know that there's a lot of people who aren't, and doing so, I
The
also
question
know.
is just about you,
Okay.
how you feel. Thank you.
I also know that I've gone forth before, and there was a lot of my hands are tied. So then I stand before the board.
Trustee Wasim?
Point of information. Okay, so I'm not sure, when we're giving the delegation information about the protocol, when we saw what happened last time about the open letter, we already had a parent come forward with very similar concerns. And we referred it to staff and it became an open letter. So are you suggesting from now on, just goes directly to your principal? When they're coming to the board with their issue?
No, I suggested that we, on our website, we have concerns. If they have concerns, this is how they can talk to the various people in their schools. And that's posted on our website, and delegation is one of those items. Trustee Wasim?
Yes, thank you for your delegation. Just a question about, so what is the ask that you would like to see from the board? Are you looking to have a council that reviews books? Who would be on that council? I'm hearing, I'm understanding that the age appropriateness concerns. I see where you're coming from. What would you like to see from the board? Because these books are approved by the ministry, so their individual school boards have, we don't have a say in.
Okay, Trustee Wasim,
I'm
Trustee
sorry,
Wasim.
just a point of order. May I?
Trustee Ramsey?
My colleague is stating something as fact that these books are approved by the ministry. Curriculum, books that are attached to the curriculum are approved by the ministry. These are supplementary materials that we're talking about. So I think these things that appear to be statement of facts, I think someone maybe from staff needs to correct that, because I don't believe that to be the case. So I think perhaps my colleague should be withdrawing that commentary that it's approved by the ministry.
My apologies. I may have
Trustee Wasim,
misunderstood
we'll
that.
just ask the question.
Yeah.
Ms. Fernandez, what is your ask about library books?
I would like the board to take a look at them and consider the appropriateness of them in our schools.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you for your delegation this evening.
Administrative procedure
Thank you for your
4110
Thank
would
you.
delegate